Hello, this is John Ramsey with My Big Comeback. I've got such an interesting guest today. I think you're really going to enjoy our guest, Tim Gagnon. Listen, everything we're talking about with this art, all this stuff, I just love it. But you wear a lot of hats. So like artist, author, speaker, teacher, veteran. Tell me a little bit about. I mean, what's the main thing that you're doing today? What's your main hat that you're wearing the most?
Art guy.
Guy.
Just artist, that's about it. It's like you try to get all these titles. I'm really not a title guy.
Wow.
I'm just like, how you doing? I'm Tim,
Tim.
but I am an artist.
Yeah.
Primarily that's from day one, I've been an artist.
When did that start? Where does it come from?
Oh gosh, the first whooping that I remember getting was, I drew a mural of dinosaurs in the toy room of my house with magic markers.
Oh wow!
And you're old enough to know those were worse than Sharpies.
Worse.
Magic markers.
Magic markers.
And my mother did not appreciate dinosaurs as much as I did.
Oh goodness!
And so I was always drawing. They couldn't make me stop. And it was like And back then we were really poor, and I drew on paper grocery store bags with charcoal that I dug out of the fire pit every morning.
Wow!
That was
That's
my art
wanting to draw.
supplies. That was wanting to draw, and they couldn't make me stop. I mean, it was just every day, all day. I remember getting in trouble at school for drawing. I became quite the tattoo artist, again with magic markers, and almost killed Ty Moran with ink poisoning during study hall. But, so it was just, I was always constantly drawing.
Yeah. It's a gifting. I mean, the whole art thing is a gifting.
It is. Michelangelo said, if people knew how hard I worked to achieve this mastery, they wouldn't think it was so wonderful. You work constantly to get better, but there's a drive in you to do it.
Yeah.
You can't, I can't not draw. Not doing art, I would start to probably just peel apart like an onion.
I feel that, and then that's why I feel like it's a gifting. It's something in your spirit that you just can't turn off. There's no off switch to it.
Exactly.
Same way with people with music. I really believe that.
I always like to quote the Chariots of Fire movie, and the guy that was the runner in the movie, and his sister was trying to talk him out of it because they were missionaries.
Yeah.
And she was like, you running in the Olympics is worldly, and you shouldn't be doing that. And he's like, he knew one thing: God made me fast.
Yeah.
And when I run, I feel His pleasure. God created me to create. And when I'm creating art, I feel His presence. I feel Him with me. I'm doing exactly what He put me on this earth to do, and that's to create.
That's fantastic. So besides painting, drawing, what other areas of art do you do?
That's really about it. I tried to join the choir once at church, and the worship pastor literally, he went like this. I'll look at the camera. He went, and I was like, okay. He didn't give me the pipes. He gave me a paintbrush.
That's what different people have different.
That's right.
I had to tell a person one time. I said, "Look, singing is not your gifting," and I mean they were so offended. And it's like I'm trying to help you, because there is something that is your gifting, and you're going to flourish when you find it. You're going to flourish.
Find your thing. Once you find your thing and you do that thing, you will feel God's pleasure.
Yeah,
when you're doing it, and that can become such a powerful thing. When I was a little boy, my dad quit smoking, and he needed to do something. And he was an avid sportsman, fishing, hunting. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't wear camo to my wedding, right? And he started to tie flies for fly fishing.
That's great.
And he did it for hours and hours and hours every night, and he got really good. And I remember sitting on a little milk crate, and I would watch him for hours.
It's artistry.
And he was creating these beautiful lures out of feathers and deer hide, and you name it. He's grabbing a hook and he's putting on. And I would sit there as a little boy on that milk crate and watch him, and I wouldn't move for hours.
Yeah.
And I was spending time with my father.
Yeah.
Creating, and that's
creativity.
Exactly.
Everyone has that outlet that they need to explore. I remember my father used to carve things out of wood, and he felt like they were simple and it's not impressive, but he wasn't doing it for everybody else. He was doing it because he felt the need to do it, and I think everyone has to find that because it's part of spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Releasing your gifting, using your gifting is part of how, I guess, for no better way to put it, how we exercise our spirit. We make it, we use it.
100%. The very first thing God ever reveals about Himself is that He's a creator.
Yes.
He's a maker. He's an artist.
Yes, he's an artist.
And that's powerful. And then, when you think about that, you're like, okay, God's a creator. When we create, we're connecting with Him in a very unique way.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I've always found fascinating is the first person in the Bible, very first person in the Bible that is ever said to be filled with the Holy Spirit is a visual artist,
Yeah.
Zello. That's
Yes.
the first time it ever happens.
Yes.
And that is powerful.
It is powerful. It is powerful. And, I do not have that gift. I mean, I'm doing good to draw breath. I mean, I
That's a good one.
I don't really, I'm not an artist, but you know what? I've always liked the architectural drawings. I've always liked the blueprints and all that kind of stuff. And it's part of me is like a builder. I like to build, but I see things in my mind and wish that I could recreate them on paper. And so, it's one of those things of you got to be gifted. You got to be gifted to do it.
For an artist, the imagination and the hands, getting your hands to do what your imagination comes up with is the constant striving of the artist. I always say, like, being an artist, you're like a dog chasing its tail. You're never going to catch it.
No.
But you're going to have a great time running around in a circle.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's pretty
That's
much
right.
the pursuit of trying to accomplish what, God gives you a vision for something. Like, I can see it in my head, and you literally can't sleep at night. And so you wake up and you get a sketch pad and you just by the bed and you doodle it out. But it's like you're trying to put on a canvas or carve out of a rock or whatever. You're trying to create what you see in your heart and in your mind. And that's the challenge, because your hands are never going to be as good as what your imagination desires.
That's beautiful. So tell me how you developed your gift. And did I read somewhere you had a degree in theology and fine art also?
Yes. So I went to the Christian Life School of Theology, which is now I think it's called Beacon University, with Dr. Ron Cardle. Can't even pronounce it anymore. Ron Caudill, and did that. Got my bachelor's degree there, and then later on, I went and got my master's of fine art from the Academy of Art University in painting. And so I'm trained in the classical method of painting. So I was basically trained in very similar way to the way that the original Renaissance masters were. In the classical method, I wasn't trained to do the duct tape banana on a wall. I was, paint your portrait, make it look just like you, that kind of thing.
Do you do a lot of portraits?
I do a lot of portraits. It's one of my passion is in many ways the human figure.
Yeah.
And, the most, again, we're created in God's image. The most beautiful thing in the universe is a human being.
Yes.
And it's also the most challenging thing to paint. And so, because if you get one thing wrong, everybody notices right away. Because you know what? We look at people all day. We know what they look like.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's really challenging, and I really get a lot. So I like to do narrative, figurative paintings.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I was looking at this beautiful Bible that you gave me, and so this is your Illuminated Messiah. And tell me about this, because this is traveling all over the country right now.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. This is my magnum opus. This is my Sistine Chapel. This is my Pieta. This is the biggest thing that I've ever.
It's beautiful. It is beautiful.
Well, I appreciate that. So what it is it's 66 original portraits, Jesus from every book of the Bible. So Jesus from Genesis all the way to Revelation. It's the main messianic prophecy from every book of the Old Testament. The main one in each book, like the messianic theme, and then where Jesus fulfills them in the new. And it's paying an homage to the Middle Ages, the Illuminated Manuscript Bible. So those old Bibles from the Middle Ages have the gold leaf and the calligraphy and then the fine art. That's what this is. It's just a modern take on that. And so, but the unique things about this Bible is it's only the third illuminated manuscript Bible since the printing press. Once the printing press was invented, they stopped making illuminations because they would take decades to make with teams of artists and artisans. And so there's only been 2 others before this. So that makes it unique. And that's about 585 years since the printing press in 1440.
This is beautiful.
Well, thank you very much.
I'm so impressed.
And
I'm looking at the book of Galatians. So every book has its own unique.
So when you go to a book of the Bible, like here's First Chronicles, and there's First Chronicles, and it shows the line of the tribe of Judah. So what it is saying is like
it's so beautiful.
This is every messianic prophetic statement in every book of the Bible.
A picture of Jesus in every book.
Right. Yes. And so what it's doing is it's leading us to the cross. It's leading us to Jesus. And so the only illuminated manuscript, third one since the printing press, it's the only one with a theme. Jesus is the Messiah, the Old Testament and the New Testament connecting together. And it's the only illumination ever to form what we call a polyptych cross, which is what you're looking at now.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get him to put a better picture of this on the podcast. But all of these pictures, so from every book, makes this cross.
Exactly, and that cross ends up being 12 feet tall. And so, for example, when you're looking at Deuteronomy and you're looking at Moses parting the Red Sea, you just think, oh, look, he's parting the waters. But when you put this cross together, you notice that Deuteronomy, the water crashing behind Moses, is Jesus' toes. The Queen of Sheba meeting Solomon is Jesus' kneecap. Wow. Jonah and the great fish are his right forearm, all and on throughout the whole body. And when you look at it, you don't see the individual paintings. You see Jesus crucified on the cross. And when that's 12 feet tall and you're standing in front of it.
It took some real inspiration.
It was, this was in my head for a very long time. And then it was finally time.
Tell me about the process. Did you create it as a whole and break it up?
Yes.
How do you do that?
Yeah. So what I did, the first thing I did is I got a model. Yeah. Threw a wig on a guy, and I had him standing on a ladder in his underwear going like this, which is that was fun. Yeah. And then one of his friends walked in and he was like, "What is happening?" As I'm taking pictures. You can imagine what that was like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so, but once I had my model and I had everything else, we built the cross, we gold leafed 100 panels, 8x10 aluminum panels. We gilded them, and then I put them together on a wall. And then I painted his portrait, the crucified Christ, on it. And then I took every single panel down one at a time. And I said, okay, this one is going to be Deuteronomy. And it's about and this passage is about the Messiah will be a man like Moses. You should listen to him. Okay, now I got to paint a painting of that. So I have to figure that out. But not only do I have to paint a picture of Moses, I have to hide Jesus' toes in the composition so you don't see toes.
Well, because, I pulled out the book of Galatians, but you don't notice, or like the book of Habakkuk here. Yeah, Habakkuk. This is a part of the bigger picture.
Yeah, that's Jesus' armpit.
Jesus' armpit. Habakkuk. That's Jesus' armpit.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
You don't notice, and that's the tricky part. That was the hardest part, because you need a composition that's going to work, that tells the story of Habakkuk.
Yeah.
But in that particular passage, so I had to first, this is where I put on my theologian hat. I got a degree in theology, so I put on my theologian hat, and I went through all the Messianic passages, all of them. And depending on who you talk to, if you talk to Jews, there's this many. If you talk to Christians, there's this many. There's 73 Messianic prophecies that both Jews and Christians agree are 100% Messianic. But in some books of the Bible, there are hundreds of Messianic prophecies. Yeah. 16% of all Messianic prophecies are in the book of Isaiah. Yeah. So which one is the one? Yeah. I chose a virgin is going to bear a son. Yeah. Okay. So that's the one I chose. And also in Matthew, she quotes that one. So I've got the connection there. So it was like trying to figure out in this book, which Messianic prophecy is the Messianic prophecy for this book. And then I have to interpret that in paint visually to show Jesus is in that and how it relates to Jesus. And then I also have to hide body parts. Yeah. So, and then you also got to add the text. And so adding the text was the most difficult part, because I have an aluminum panel that's got gold leaf on top of it. I have to wait for that to cure and make sure it stays. Then I have to seal it with an acrylic layer. And then I do what's called an underpainting, where I paint like the background stuff. And then comes the hard part, the text. I'm a terrible speller. And this is the Bible. I can't get anything wrong. So we use what's called an acrylic transfer. Yeah. And basically you can print out on this special film the text. And then you overlay it over the painting. And if you do it just right, you peel the plastic sheet off and the text stays. And then I would paint over that the finished image in oils. But if you get anything wrong, you have literally 3 minutes. If you peel it back at 3 minutes and 1 second, or 2 minutes and 58 seconds, you rip the entire painting and the gold leaf off the panel.
You've messed up your canvas.
And you start over from scratch. So some of these I did 9 times. Wow. So that's why I gilded 100 panels, not just 66, because I was constantly redoing them. So it was a lot of sweat, a lot of blood, a lot of tears.
That's amazing.
A lot of prayer.
How long on the whole process of this project?
5 years.
5 years.
5 years in the studio. Yeah. And before that, I was traveling. with Woman of Faith, and I was known as the fire painter. So I would do the speed painting in churches.
Like whether you're painting while they're doing a message or whatever.
Yeah, that kind of thing, doing it real fast. Yeah. And my shtick was I would light my paintbrushes on fire and breathe fire during the painting. Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Yeah,
did it on the Mike Huckabee show, and which was pretty fun. And but it was like God said, stop that, get in the studio, work on this.
I'm fascinated. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Heroes Child is a nonprofit organization that is on a mission to help community heroes with the everyday cost of childcare. We know that heroes like our military personnel, first responders, and foster families need care for their children. Heroes Child awards these families scholarships that go to help pay their childcare tuition. Use the QR code on the screen to donate now or visit heroeschild.org today.
I'm back here. I've got Tim here talking about this stuff. Let me tell you, this whole Illustrated Messiah Bible, fascinating stuff. When you talk about 5 years of your life going into this, making it, and now it's traveling the country. Tell me about the travels and what you're experiencing with churches receiving this, and what's that like?
Oh, it's something to see. Here's the thing. For the first 1,500 years of church history, go back and you look at the history books. The first 1,500 years from Jesus to the Renaissance, the primary tool the church used to engage culture were the visual arts. Yeah. Mosaics, icons, sculpture, paintings, frescoes. That was how we interacted with culture. And what did we create out of that? Western civilization. I think we did a pretty good job. Yeah. Music has been the primary tool in churches really for less than 100 years as the big push. And you're a pastor, church in our culture has probably never had less of an impact on culture. Yeah. So the visual arts have been forgotten in a lot of ways, and that happened during the Protestant Reformation. When the Protestant Reformation happened, the founders of the Reformation were so worried about not being Catholic. They didn't want any optics that made them more Catholic. They threw the baby out with the bathwater.
I believe that. And
they heavily censured the visual arts in their churches. So what was happening is people were leaving the Catholic Church and joining these simpler faiths, these simpler expressions of faith. And artists were some of them that were frustrated with what was going on during the Renaissance in Catholicism, and they were wanting to join the Protestant churches, and they found they weren't welcome there either. Yeah,
because they were afraid they'd make them look Catholic.
Right, so they weren't allowed to express their art in big ways the way they were. Guys like Michelangelo wouldn't have been welcome, and so it was like, okay, where do we go? They went to the world. But when we go to churches, my mission is to bring the arts back to the church. Yes. Because to this day, if you want to see the greatest works of art in the world, you go to church. Yeah. You go to the Vatican, but still, the greatest works of art in human history are works of art that celebrate the Christian faith. Yes. That's a powerful thing.
It is.
And they change lives and it touches people. And so we go to churches and we transform your church into the Sistine Chapel. We change it into an art museum for a weekend. We show up on a Friday and we do what's called a fancy art word. All the fancy art words are French. Just going to say it. Yeah. And so it's called a versonnage. Right? Versonnage. It means the show open. And so we do this show and we put all the art on display and everybody comes in and they look at the art. There's food and drinks and everybody hangs out and meet and greet. And then I do a little talk explaining what this is about. And it's a blast. Some churches turn that into a night of worship. Yeah. And then we have the giant cross on display. And then during the nights of worship, people are in the foyer and they're looking at all the original art on easels. But then they go into the sanctuary and we have this incredible night of worship with moments of exhortation where I come out and I talk about who the Messiah is, what he's about, how how God weaves a tapestry across time and scripture, revealing little glimpses of what the Messiah is going to be like. And then he's revealed in Jesus. Yes. And then the music is building and building and building. And then right at the climax, we spin the cross around and people see the giant 12-foot elliptic cross. Wow. And people lose their minds. God
that is moves. Wonderful.
It's really, really powerful because they see all those paintings that they were looking out there. And all of a sudden they see them combine and form Jesus.
Well, because I just didn't get that. When I looked at the book of Galatians, I didn't realize that's part of this picture.
Yes.
That's amazing. Never notice that. It's amazing.
That's so I know you know Pastor Hayward Miller. Yeah. So I used to go to his church for a long time. And he always said, when you're fishing for men, you got to set the hook.
Yeah.
You got to set the hook, right? You got to, reel that fish in. That cross being revealed like that is setting the hook.
Yes.
Because when you set that hook like that and you see people's reaction, I mean, the first exhibit we ever did, we were at a Baptist church in South Carolina, and there were 3,000 people, and in each service, there were 2 services on Good Friday.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was putting this cross together panel by panel with a 250-member choir behind me.
Wow.
In this giant night of worship. And
Wow.
when that cross got revealed, when you hear that many Southern Baptists all gasp at the same time, it is the coolest sound you will ever
Wow.
hear,
That's fascinating.
And it's powerful. And then it's like, okay, it's kind of a no-brainer, altar call time. That's really what it's about. Because to me, that's what this is about. There's an ancient, and I know you're going to like this, there's an ancient Hebrew tradition called Hidur Mitzvah. And it means the beautification of the Word of God, the beautification of the Torah.
Yeah.
Okay? And Hidur Mitzvah, way back when they were in Babylon captives, the rabbis were reading Exodus 15:2, and they saw the passage where Moses is writing, he is my father's God, and I will exalt him. He is my God, and I will exalt him. But the word exalt was kind of weird to them. They were trying to figure out, what is Moses saying with this word exalt? And after mulling over it for months, they came up with, and they wrote this in the Talmud, it really should be translated, I will exalt God by creating beautiful things.
Wow.
I know, which instantly means visual arts.
Visual arts
is worship. Just as valid a worship as singing, as doing a sacrifice, kneeling and praying. The creation of the visual arts exalts
That's
God.
beautiful.
And so this ministry of transforming a church into an art gallery, of showing this cross and revealing Jesus on the cross from Genesis to Revelation, we reveal Jesus on this cross. That exalts God with beauty.
Brother, I mean, you are speaking to me. This is exactly what I feel. And I know some people get offended when I say the word worship does not mean music. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
Really, it means to bow before or to position yourself under God. Mm-hmm. And I can think of no better way to position yourself in alignment with God is an imagery. It's an imagery of who He is, what He's doing, the bigness of God.
Yeah.
And there's there's a limit to what we can see in this room, but there's no limit to what I can see in my mind, in my spirit.
Right.
So if I can get some of that out of my spirit into where I can visualize it, I mean, it's worship.
Right. And
It's
the worry
absolutely
that a lot
worship.
of pastors have is they're so worried about breaking the second commandment about graven imagery
Yeah.
that they panic when they see this. And honestly, I mean, if you look at this cross,
Yeah.
it's a crucifix.
Yeah.
So they automatically go
Yeah.
Catholicism and they freak out, especially Protestants, right?
Yeah.
And so I end up having to educate pastors. I'm like, let me show you in the Bible where God commissions images that you would go, wait a minute, those are graven images, but God's commissioning them. Twice in the Bible, God commissions sculptures to be made to be used in ceremonial corporate worship. The Ark of the Covenant, right? So you have the golden calf.
Yeah.
God was upset about the golden calf.
Yeah.
But what is it? It's a sculpture of a cow covered in gold.
Mm-hmm.
While they're down there doing this, Moses is on the mountain with God, and God says, oh, there's an artist down there. And I want you to commission him, and I want him to make a box and sculpt 2 cherubim on it and cover them with gold.
Yeah.
And you're going to sprinkle the blood of the lamb.
Yeah. The Ark of the
And
Covenant.
it's like, wait a minute. So the Ark of the Covenant has 2 statues
Yeah.
covered in gold. So from an artist standpoint, the Ark of the Covenant and the golden calf are the exact same thing. Yeah. They're the same thing. They're gilded sculptures. I'm like, well, wait a minute. One's a graven image and one is not. So then we go, okay, did God ever do that again? Yes, He did. But this time He tells Moses, don't hire that artist to do it. You're going to do it yourself. And He says, oh, all the people are dying from poisonous snake bite. So here's what you're going to do, Moses. I want you to make this time a bronze sculpture of a snake. I
love it.
Put it on a pole, and people are going to look at it, and whammo, they're going to be healed. Well, now we're like, now it sounds like witchcraft practically, It's like, what, this is a magic snake? What, know? But it's like they're going to just look at it and be healed. That sounds like a graven image. Well, it wasn't until it was, because 150 years later, in 2 Kings, God tells the king, take that bronze serpent, that brazen serpent, and grind it to dust, because the people are worshiping it as the god Nehushtan in the Canaanite snake cult.
Yeah.
So, but God wasn't mad at Moses for making the snake.
No.
God told
Told him
Moses to make the
He
snake.
commissioned it. Yeah.
He commissioned the visual
Yeah.
art. The people 150 years later started worshiping it.
Yeah.
So there was a point where that visual art became something else and had to be
It's not the
destroyed.
art, it's how it's used.
Bingo.
Yeah.
God judges our heart.
Absolutely.
And that's where it's like, okay, so that shows us biblically, God has no problem with the visual arts.
Yeah.
He even has no problem with visual arts being used in corporate ceremonial worship.
Yeah.
What he does have a problem with is
Well, and
the
I've
line.
said this a million times. I mean, because I've told my people we shouldn't worship the cross or this and that, and we shouldn't. We should worship only God the Father. But and I said the funniest thing, I saw a TikTok video where it was some illustration about Jesus, and Jesus was wearing a cross, and I said, I don't know that he'd be wearing a cross. I said, I don't know that Jesus would be wearing a gold cross, but it was just something comical, I'm saying. But the thing is, it's the intent. There's nothing wrong with a cross, but I'm not supposed to worship it.
Right.
You know, I'm not supposed to worship any image, but the beauty of it comes from God. It comes from our spirit.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with the beauty of
Right.
it. And I just think it's so simple, but people make it so complicated, like your name. You know, like I love your name, French.
Yes.
So it's Gagnon.
yes.
Tell me what it means.
It means angry man.
Angry man. You don't sound like an angry man.
I'm not. I am just the opposite of an angry man. But apparently, the first Gagnon was mean. He must have been
Gagnon.
mean.
So, and you started an organization called Gagnon Atelier.
Yes, that's
Tell
correct.
me what that means.
That just means artist workshop. So Gagnon Atelier means angry man's workshop.
Angry man's workshop.
You know, which is silly. But an atelier is it's a school. It's just an art school. And so back during the Renaissance, the way Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, right, all the Ninja Turtle artists, right, the way they learned to create art, that's one of my favorite lines. So that's good. The way they were trained, you would take an apprentice, a master artist would take apprentices around like 6 years old.
Wow.
And the parents would just go, here's my kid, please train them. You would feed them, clothe them, train them until they were 20.
20.
And then they would then have to prove their mastery, which, by the way, that's where we get master's degrees from.
Wow.
Because you had to prove your mastery before a board, before the guild of painters, artists, sculptors, whoever. And then you would be allowed to create your own atelier school and take on apprentices and now bid for jobs and contracts. And so an atelier, a modern atelier, is kind of like a college alternative art school where artists can go and train, and they can learn the arts, and they can learn to draw, paint, sculpt, and then, but it's college alternative, so you don't get a degree. But I can tell you that the people that go to ateliers, like there's one in Boston called the Academy of Realist Art in Boston. It is the premier atelier school probably in America. There is the Florence Academy. There's Atelier Dojo in New Mexico. There's a ton. And these are elite training where you're going there for 3 to 5 years training in art, but you're not taking math, you're not taking English, you're just doing art, and you're being trained by elite artists, and you're doing nothing but drawing and painting for that entire time.
Well, and I think we've lost something with the whole cookie cutter college degree that we send people to, and take these 5 courses, Western civilization, all this stuff. Take these 5 courses and we'll stamp your head and you've got a degree. But what are you offering the world
And
when you leave there?
You don't need a degree to be an artist.
That's right. You don't need it.
I got some artists that make way more money than me, and they have not formally trained.
I didn't go to college. I was at that crossroads when I graduated high school to join this evangelistic team or go to college. I joined the evangelistic team. I went into the ministry. Started Harvest when I was 23 years old.
Wow.
And I've always felt like I was doing what God called me to do. And there's times where I felt like I don't fit because I don't have the degree or this and that, but I've been very successful, been very happy. And I think that a lot of people are missing out on their real joy of what God called them to do by trying to fit into the cookie cutter system that we've pushed everybody into. And not only pushed them into, but give them a big bill for it, at the end of it.
Oh, yeah. I could have bought a house.
Yeah.
I could have bought a nice house.
Yeah. Wind up with a bunch of student loans doing something that you really weren't called to do. You know, and I'm not saying college is against that. Yes, there's people that get it great. You can certainly polish your gift and help yourself in a lot of areas. I'm not against college, but I'm against you abandoning your dream and your calling.
Right. You know, I'm an adjunct college professor. I teach here at Gulf Coast State College and teach art. And it's the mandatory Humanities 1 art course that every student has to take. Most of my students, they don't think about art before or after. They're like, oh gosh, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to me. My job is to make them understand just how important the arts are to culture. But
yes,
college isn't for everybody. But when they go to college, the first question I ask them is, what do you want to be when you grow up? What are you here for? And they'll tell me, I want to do this, I want to do this. I'm like, you know what today is? Today is the first day of you making your dream come true.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard work, how bad you want it.
Yeah.
You know,
that's good.
And that's really, you know, it's a great opportunity. College is an opportunity.
If going to college makes you lose that dream, you've lost the really important thing. Use college to enhance that dream,
right?
Not to replace it.
Right. College should be something that helps open doors for you.
Yeah.
But nowadays, a lot of degrees, it doesn't open any doors.
Yeah. I like the line in Dead Poets Society with Robin Williams when he says something about that we need to focus on math and English. And he says, but if we don't have the poetry, if we don't have the art, then what are we writing about?
Right. Winston Churchill is quoted as saying, and there's debate whether or not he said it exactly this way, but when the Parliament was basically saying we need to cut funding to the arts to fund the war effort in World War II, he said, then what are we fighting for?
And what are we fighting for?
Right. Yeah. George Washington even compared a civilization that has a vibrant art is a civilization that has arrived. And he actually, he put patriotism and the arts, linked them together. Like, if you don't love the arts, you don't love your country, because your country's art is expressing who it is as a people.
Who we are.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to connect your organization with an audience that is eager for inspiration? The My Big Comeback podcast, hosted by John R. Ramsey, shares powerful stories of resilience and redemption, featuring guests who have turned life setbacks into major comebacks. New episodes drop the 1st and 15th of every month. For those interested in being a part of this community, sponsorship opportunities are now available. To learn more, contact Meredith Cobb at meredithcobbhwc@gmail.com. Let's make a big comeback together.
Here we go. We're back with Tim Gagnon, the angry man. And we've talked about all kind of interesting stuff today. And you're a fascinating guest. I love you being with me.
Appreciate it.
You're also a veteran.
I am, Air Force veteran.
Is that what brought you to Panama City?
Yeah, I got stationed here at the young age of 19 years old at Tyndall Air Force Base. I was stationed at the 84 Test Squadron.
And you felt like you hit the lottery, huh? At 19, being stationed in Panama City.
I grew up in northern New Hampshire.
Oh, yeah.
So there were more moose than people from my hometown, and that's not even an exaggeration. There really is. And so when I heard I was coming to Florida, I was like, Mickey Mouse and me are going to be best friends, and Donald Duck. I didn't realize how far away Disney World is.
Yeah, it's a long way.
I was like, but I remember in basic training, my drill sergeant, when he's handing out the assignments, he goes to me, because I bypassed tech school, which is an incredible story. But he goes, "You're going to Tyndall?" And I'm like, I don't know, where's Tyndall? He goes, that's in Panama City. I thought I was going to the country Panama. I never heard of Panama City. And he goes, it's in Florida, dummy. And I'm like, I'm going to Florida. And he was like, I've been trying to go to Tyndall Air Force Base for 15 years. And he was furiously angry. But I was stationed out there at Tyndall, loved it, got the sand in my toes.
Yeah.
And I remember my commander's like, he's like, we're going to send you to Germany. You're getting, your next assignment's in Germany. And I looked him in the face and I said, is there a beach in Germany? Yeah. And he said no. And I said, I'm out. and I got out and I opened an airbrush shop at the Laguna Beach Christian Retreat.
Wow. What year was that you were stationed here?
1991 and 1994.
Wow.
Yeah. And I just,
Panama City does that to you. We had no relatives here. My mother and father had no relatives here, but my dad, he retired Air Force, took his first civil service job at Tyndall, which was supposed to be 2 years. And that was 44 years ago. We never left. Panama City just gets you.
It is, and it's so beautiful here. My gosh, beautiful. My happiest place to be is about this deep at St. Andrews State Park.
Yeah.
In the water. Yeah. That's if I am so
well,
happy.
And even back when we moved here in 1980, even then, Panama City was big enough that it had pretty much everything you needed. We don't have a professional sports team or anything, But it has everything you need basically, but it's not so big that it has that big dirty city feel.
Right.
It's just a perfect sized town. I love it.
It's growing like a weed. That's
It
for
is
sure.
growing.
It's
It is
growing, and I love it.
Growing.
Though.
I do
love it.
too. So your veteran connection inspired you with this Patriot Art Foundation. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So actually, I'm leaving Friday to go up to Patriots Point, South Carolina, on the USS Yorktown. We are doing our giant Veterans Day annual fundraising event. The Patriot Art Foundation is an organization that was founded by a legendary watercolorist named Mary White. And she painted 50 veterans, one from every state. And I'm talking 8-foot, 10-foot long portraits. She painted everything, one veteran from every state, everything from a homeless person to an astronaut, everything in between. And she put it on display. But in her journeys traveling around the country for 7 years, painting their portraits, she met veterans. And she saw how much veterans need help. And it touched her, so she formed this organization. What we do is we go to VA clinics. We offer free online drawing and painting courses. We give them all the supplies. And we teach veterans to tell their stories through the creative outlets,
Yes.
drawing and painting. And so it's, veterans, especially veterans with PTSD, combat veterans, they've been through some stuff. And talking about it can make it worse.
Yeah.
You want to cause a flashback, get them to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not pretty. And so, but when you're creating a piece of art and you're painting or you're sculpting or you're drawing, it's like they'll tell us countless stories. It's like all the emotions just come out on the paper and they feel so much better. Plus they're learning a new skill and it's getting them excited. And then in these courses, because it's all veterans, we have a lot of camaraderie. But most of the time what I do is I go on Zoom meetings to the VA clinics all across the country, and there's 15, 20 of them in there, and some of them are outpatient, some of them are inpatient, and I'm teaching them an 8-week art course on drawing. Mary White does it on painting, watercolors, and then we also have art muster groups. We have a special online Facebook group just for veterans. We have, there's an organization called Terracotta Art, which is a big online school. They have an 8-week drawing course called Drawing Boot Camp that I teach, and an 8-week watercolor boot camp that she teaches. And this weekend, we're going to be on the USS Yorktown, which is the aircraft carrier from the Battle of Midway in the Pacific.
Wow.
And now it's a giant museum.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be on the ship with 50 veterans, and we're going to be painting. I'm going to be drawing. She's going to be painting live. They're going to be drawing and painting with us. And then we're going to be simulcasting to Fort Belfort at the Army Museum. And then all over the internet, people can watch and join.
You see a lot of healing take place when people tap into that gifting.
It is so powerful. It is so
That's
powerful.
beautiful.
And I get to hang out with my fellow vets from all the branches, Of course, my favorites are the Air Force guys, but, I love them all.
Yeah. That is beautiful. And you're doing a podcast? Is it your podcast or is it a national?
It's the Patriot Art Podcast.
Okay.
And so Patriot Art Foundation, if you go on YouTube, you can watch podcasts. We interview professional artists that are also veterans. They tell their stories and things like that. And boy, we've got some stories. There are a lot of people don't know this. If I would have known this, I would have gone in the Marines. There was a job in the Marines called combat artist.
Really?
You go into combat with a sketch pad.
Really?
Yes.
Never heard.
And I'm like, that's insane. Now, when I was in the Air Force, one of my people in my squadron I shared an office with, he was a combat photographer. He rode in the back seat of the F-15s and took pictures. But there are combat photographers in the Army and the Marines, and they go into combat with a camera.
Yeah.
And I remember one of them, I was interviewing her, I asked her straight up, like, how do you know when to stick your head up and shoot the gun or stick your head up and go click? And this woman didn't bat an eye. She said, your pucker factor. Yeah. And I'm just like, that is a tough woman.
So what's branch? The Marines have a combat sketch artist?
Combat artist. You can be a combat artist or you can be a combat photographer.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that's a job that's gone back since the Civil War.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it when in the Civil War they needed a sketch artist.
Right, and then photography came out, and then photography.
I heard this quote by Picasso one time that, because of course his art is when we did the crazy faces and all that, shocked people when they first saw that. And I forget the story where someone had commissioned him to do his wife or something, to paint his wife. And he was so offended when he saw it. He says, this is terrible. It looks awful because it's so abstract. And he said, we have cameras if you just wanted an image of it.
Right. That's the reason he created the abstract art movement, because he
said, I want to draw the inside.
Pablo Picasso could paint your portrait and it would have been perfect.
Yeah.
It would have looked like a photograph. But when the camera was invented and then the handheld camera became available for everybody, he couldn't pay his mortgage anymore because no one was hiring him to paint their important event.
And that's what he said. He said, you got a camera for that.
And so
that's not what I do.
Him and his friends got together and they said, what do we as artists bring that this new machine, the camera, can't replicate? And they came up with the abstract art movement, cubism, and all that. Like you look at it, you're like, what is that? That can't be real. But they came up with that because the camera can't copy that.
Yeah.
And now artists are dealing with the new fancy machine, AI. And AI art is not art, but
it's not art.
People go on there and they're like, create me this, and boom, they've got a piece of art. And it's like, okay, what do you need the artist then for? So graphic designers are really
So how does the
suffering.
artist answer that question?
That is a good question. So I think guys like graphic designers, AI is going to become a problem unless they start using it. But, graphic design is going to hurt. But I think painting, sculpture, anything that is done with hands of a human, I think with AI and all this kind of art like that, it's going to make real physical art, paint, sculpture more valuable. It's going to be more sought after.
See, I still think there's that spirit thing that's got to be connected to it.
Is.
And I feel like a real piece of art speaks to you. I have this wall in our new sanctuary, and I've already talked to you about it a little bit. But I mean, when I walk into the new sanctuary, it's this big 30-foot high wall. I want an angel on it. And I know what I have in my mind. I'm not an artist, so I need to get what out of my mind onto that wall, and that's where you're going to help me. That's where we're going to figure it out
fun.
because I can't do it. So I've got to find
someone
like you that has that gifting that can. I know what I see in my spirit. I don't know how to get it on that wall. I have a favorite scripture that perfect love casts out fear in the book of John. And I really believe it's just the scriptures always spoke to me. But I want an angel on that wall with that scripture because that's part of what I feel. And that's what it is about it. AI cannot feel. AI cannot feel, and there's not a move of the spirit in AI, and it's a great tool, and I don't think we're going to get around it. I think it's going to invade every part of society, every part of life. I heard a good analogy from the president of NVIDIA the other day, and he said just embrace it. Don't resist it because you're going to lose. He said it's like when they invented the excavator, it could do the work of 100 men. But you still need an excavator operator. And he said, so it's not that AI is replacing these things. It's people that can operate AI.
Exactly.
And so just like the excavator operator can replace 100 men with a shovel, the AI operator can replace 100 men with computers.
Right. Computer engineering now, there's a branch off of it, and they call it prompting. And so these are people that are trained to prompt the AI. Basically, they're training you to ask AI the right questions to get it to do what it will do. Because if you ask it in an incorrect way, it's going to do something wonky.
Do something
else. It's like AI art. It'll be 7 fingers on my hand if it did a drawing of me, because AI still can't draw hands, which hands are tough. But
so say I'm a kid drawing dinosaurs on my mom's wall, like you said, and I aspire one day to be an artist. What's the best advice you can give young artists?
The best advice that I can give young artists is a couple things. Still do your other homework. Because I was not that student. I was not that student at all. Believe it or not, I was the class clown. And I know that shocks a lot of people out there. But I never did my homework. I was always doing art. And, when it came time to go to college, originally right out of high school, I was looking at full scholarships when they looked at my portfolio. And then they saw my grades and they said, you're not going to last a month, get out of here. And so I had to join the military because that was my only option. So you need to still focus on those things academically so that you can get the opportunity to go to college. You don't need to go to college, but you want to make sure that you have quality training. So an atelier school or going to college that has a good art program, around here in Panama City Beach, Florida, one of the best schools, one of the best art schools in this region is actually Pensacola Christian College.
Really?
They've got one of the best art programs you could ever find. And their training program is amazing. But, it's basically just draw. Practice. Don't stop, but learn the fundamentals.
Yeah.
If you can get the right training, that's what I talked earlier about classically trained, the way the old masters trained. If you can draw anything, like if you're classically trained, I can draw anything, and I can do the banana duct tape to the wall. Mm. I can do what's called a paint pour. You've seen those ones where it's like
slinging the paint around.
Yeah, they're slinging the paint.
Yeah.
Okay, I can teach you to sling the paint like that with a YouTube video and about 15 minutes, and anybody could learn to do it, and it would actually look pretty good. But to paint that is going to take you decades to learn how to do.
Yeah.
So, but if you can do that, you can do any kind of art.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so learn the classics, pay attention to those things, practice, and also find mentors that can help you to get there. That's probably the biggest thing.
Do you have a mentor, someone that really inspired you?
I do. One of my biggest things in life is if you're the best artist in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
Okay. Find a room where you're the worst artist in the room.
Exactly.
So I'm in organizations like the Portrait Society of America, NOPES, National, Oil and Acrylic Painters, things like that, where I get around artists that are way better than me.
Yeah.
And you become friends with them, and you learn from each other. And I can pick up the phone and I'd be like, hey, can I send you this painting? I want you to take a look at my thumbnails, my sketches. And we're constantly going back and forth. I mentioned Mary White, the founder of the Patriot Art Foundation. She's a dear friend. She's also a mentor. To get when she tells me I did a good job on a drawing or a painting. Yeah. I mean, the woman's a legend. Yeah. She's a legend, and so it's like that. Those things help. But you definitely need to find art mentors. I think a lot of artists, one of the mistakes they make, and I guess you could say this with musicians as well, they ask advice from the wrong people. If I'm not gonna get a critique on this oil painting that's a portrait. Obviously, it's a portrait of Jesus, but obviously somebody posed for that. I'm not gonna get a critique on this from an abstract artist or a sculptor. No, I want to go to a portrait painter who is more successful and better than me. Yeah. So you need to choose wisely who you put yourself around that's going to make you grow.
I believe that. I used to go to different conferences and churches and stuff, and people would tell me like, well, that's this person or that, but they got 10,000 people. You can't compare anything you're doing with someone 10,000. I said, I'm not trying to compare. I'm trying to aspire. I want to see where it can go. I want to dream. I want a vision, And I think being around people that are better than us inspires us. I think so. What can be done,
Yeah, I think that because God put this art in me, I use the parable of the talents, right? Yeah. He invested this much in this person, this much in this person, according to their ability. Yeah. He expected a return.
Yes.
God invested this artistic skill in me. Yeah. One of my jobs, when I stand before him, I'm going to have to make an account to him for the talent he gave me.
Absolutely.
And so my job as a Christian artist is to become the best artist that I can possibly be, because A, it's an act of worship, and I want to return the investment back to him tenfold.
Yes.
That's my goal with my art. And if I don't do that, I'm going to get, you know what I mean? What am I going to hear at the end? I want to hear him go, great job.
He wants us to account for the gifting he gave us.
Exactly. And the giftings and the callings of God are without repentance. There are artists that can paint circles around me, and they aren't
doing nothing with it.
Right. Yeah. Well, they're doing things with it, but it's to glorify themselves, not the Lord. Christian art doesn't have to be paintings of Jesus. I can paint 2 polar bears in a snowstorm, which I have. Yeah. And I'm still hanging out with Jesus.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Me and Jesus and a paintbrush.
Absolutely.
That's close to heaven as I can be. And for me, one of the things, it's like this. There are guys out there, God made you a car guy. Yeah. And you are at your happiest underneath a car.
I know a car
with
guy.
With oil all over your face. And you can turn that into worship. Yeah. And you and Jesus under the hood of a car for hours. Yeah. That's going to be worship. And that's right. It doesn't matter if you're crocheting, if you're doing graphic design, if you're singing, if you're dancing, it doesn't matter. God put it in you, do that thing.
Yeah, there's something in you that the creative part wants to come out, and it's God given. It really
Yeah,
is.
absolutely.
I think when people understand that, it's what I preach on fruitfulness. There's a if God made you a tomato, you're going to produce tomatoes.
Right.
I mean that's what he he put art in you. And that's you're flowing in your gifting, and that's a beautiful thing. I could talk all day, and we'll talk some more. But the truth is I'm inspired by people like you. I really am,
Thank
and I think it's beautiful. And I hope the art scene in Panama City, Bay County, stays strong. I'm hoping that people will see this and say, "Look, I can do a lot of things with my gifting." And the worst thing that can happen is to put it on your shelf, kill your dream, and not use what God gave you.
Right.
So hopefully people will see this and be inspired to do so. Thank you for talking with me today.
You. Appreciate
I have
it.
enjoyed it very much. Thanks, Tim. Thank you.